Shedeur Sanders isn't injured. He's invisible. While fans watch mediocre quarterback play unfold week after week, Sanders is warming up on the sidelines, throwing in pregame, and engaging in subtle social media digs that hint at frustration. His physical capabilities aren't in question. The issue lies in decision-making at the top. Kevin Stefanski, along with GM Andrew Berry, appears determined to bench Sanders not out of necessity, but out of narrative control. The injury claim is starting to look more like a smokescreen than a diagnosis.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
The Browns' internal politics have turned into performance sabotage, with Sanders paying the price. Here's a player with high-end college production and a mental edge in chaotic situations, traits the NFL often overlooks until it's too late. By keeping him off the field, the franchise is wasting time it cannot afford to lose. Tom Brady's criticism shines a spotlight on this dysfunction, and it's hard to argue he's wrong. What Cleveland does next will either define their rebuild or destroy their locker room. But make no mistake, every week Sanders sits, the Browns drift further from competitiveness and closer to chaos. Tom Brady didn't just make a comment. He issued a warning. When the most decorated quarterback in NFL history steps out of his polished, calculated public image to directly call out a head coach by name, there's something seriously wrong. And this time, the spotlight is burning straight through Cleveland, aimed at Kevin Stefanski, his questionable handling of Shedeur Sanders, and what now looks like a textbook case of ego-based sabotage. It's no secret that Shedeur Sanders is ready to play. That part isn't up for debate. The guy's arm strength, processing ability, and confidence under pressure were already documented coming out of college. He's a high-level performer who thrives in chaotic situations, someone built for Sundays. But for whatever reason, none of that seems to matter in Cleveland. Instead of letting him learn through real in-game reps, they've buried him under vague injury reports and manufactured narratives. The excuse? A supposed back issue. But here's the problem. People have eyes. And Sanders has been seen throwing pregame, zipping passes across the field like nothing's wrong. Not a single sign of physical limitation. No limp. No hesitance. No hesitation in his mechanics. Just clean throws and quiet frustration. So, what are we doing here? Tom Brady isn't someone who jumps into organizational drama for fun. He's a symbol of meritocracy. His entire career was built on being underestimated and then given a shot. One shot. And look where it led. So when he speaks up about Sanders being benched unnecessarily, he's not just throwing shade. He's calling out a broken philosophy that could ruin careers, tank seasons, and gut locker rooms. Stefanski's approach doesn't resemble Brady's in any way. While Brady believes in opportunity, reps, and letting young talent develop by playing, Stefanski seems locked into a system that prioritizes protecting his own decisions over adjusting when reality shifts. That's not strategy. That's pride. And it's hurting this team. Let's look at what this does to the locker room. You think Myles Garrett doesn't notice? You think Denzel Ward's sideline energy isn't calculated? These guys have been around. They know when something's off. Body language, tone in team meetings, reactions during games. It's all starting to unravel. And when leadership makes decisions based on control instead of performance, morale starts to crater. What's wild is how clearly Shedeur is being held back. This isn't about learning behind a seasoned veteran or easing him into the NFL. It's not about a deep, talented QB room where it's hard to justify taking a chance. This is about a team with a hobbled starter and a stalled defense, choosing not to play the most dynamic option on the bench. Choosing, deliberately, to ignore the spark right in front of them. Why? Because playing Sanders now would mean admitting they were wrong about him not being ready. It would mean swallowing pride and pivoting mid-season. And that's something this current regime refuses to do. They're doubling down on a mistake instead of owning it. And it's costing them games and credibility. It's not just about the quarterback. This kind of decision-making reflects a deeper problem. A franchise stuck in its own inertia. Cleveland's history of failed quarterback investments is long, painful, and consistent. Every few years, there's a new plan, a new savior, a new strategy. And yet the same mistakes keep happening. Promising players get buried. Coaching egos take priority. And fans are left watching a franchise choke on its own potential. And now history is repeating. Again. The Browns have a QB with first-round level ability, high football IQ, and a knack for handling pressure. But they're acting like he's a liability. They've crafted a narrative that doesn't line up with reality, and they're sticking to it even as the season drifts further off course. Brady's criticism isn't about one player. It's about the system. It's about a team that would rather fail the right way, meaning the coach's way, than risk winning by admitting they made the wrong call. That's what this is, a clash between meritocracy and institutional ego. Shedeur Sanders has done everything right. He's handled this with maturity, composure, and quiet defiance. The social media activity? Liking posts calling for his start? That's a calculated move from a player who knows he's being overlooked and wants fans and maybe teammates to know he sees it too. He's making a statement without burning bridges. But make no mistake, the frustration is real. And if the Browns continue this, that frustration is going to erupt, whether in the locker room or in the media. This goes beyond football. It's about leadership, about knowing when to pivot, when to listen, when to evolve. The Browns, right now, are ignoring all of that. And they're inching closer to disaster. Post-bye week, all eyes will be on Cleveland. If Sanders doesn't get the nod, if they trot out the same ineffective system with the same excuses, it won't just be Brady calling them out. It'll be the fans, the media, the players. And at some point, ownership has to step in and ask, what are we actually doing? The answer will determine everything. This season is teetering. At 2-6 or worse, the Browns lose not just standings, they lose trust. From the fan base, from the locker room, from the people who still believe this team could turn the corner. But give Sanders the ball, and something changes. Maybe it's messy at first. Maybe he struggles. But it's growth. It's movement. It's not just another week of rinse and repeat, followed by another Stefanski press conference blaming execution or injuries. And if Sanders plays well, then it's not just a change in quarterback. It's a rebirth. The locker room gets reinvigorated. The offense finds an identity. The fan base wakes up. That's the power of opportunity. That's what Brady was talking about. And that's what Stefanski seems hell-bent on ignoring. If things don't change, the consequences are obvious. Players will start speaking out. Frustration will boil over. Leadership will be questioned, and not quietly. Coaching changes become inevitable. And Sanders? He won't stick around forever. Another team will come calling, one that values talent over politics, and Cleveland will once again be left holding the pieces of what could have been. Because that's how this always ends in Cleveland, right? A young quarterback gets buried by a regime too proud to course correct. The team spirals. The coach gets fired. The cycle resets. Over and over. But it doesn't have to go that way. There's still time to do the right thing. Still time to pivot. Still time to look at Sanders and say, we were wrong not to give you the shot earlier. But now, it's yours. The Browns can choose the path of growth, humility, and merit, or they can stick with fear, control, and ego. And one of those options leads straight back to rock bottom. Brady called it. The writing's on the wall. Let Sanders play. Let me know what you think. Should the Browns finally hand the reins to Sanders? Is Stefanski already on the clock? Are we witnessing another quarterback downfall in the making? Or the calm before a mid-season turnaround? Drop a comment. Hit like if this whole situation's driving you crazy too. And don't forget to subscribe for more breakdowns from the most chaotic corners of the NFL. There's more drama coming. Trust me. If Shedeur Sanders were on almost any other team right now, we'd be having a very different conversation. One centered around his progress, his flashes of brilliance, the natural growing pains of a rookie learning the speed of the league. But instead, we're talking about injury pretexts and press conference word games. We're talking about excuses, and a franchise that seems far more interested in protecting egos than developing talent. At the center of all of it is Kevin Stefanski, who's managed to turn what should be a clear opportunity into a case study in coaching paralysis. With a starter down and the offense struggling, every logical sign pointed to Sanders. You've got a mobile, confident, high-pressure tested quarterback sitting right there, taking every rep in practice, throwing lasers in warm-ups, and showing zero physical limitations. Yet he's being hidden behind an injury claim that's grown more hollow by the week. And now, it's not just fans asking questions. It's Tom Brady, the man who is the NFL quarterback success story. The guy who wasn't supposed to make it, but did because someone gave him a shot. So when he sees what's happening in Cleveland and calls it out, it's more than criticism. It's a flashing, red warning light. Brady's message is clear. This isn't about talent. It's not about game readiness. It's about control. About a coaching staff so afraid of what it means to admit they were wrong that they'd rather lose games than face the truth. Brady built a career on proving people wrong. Stefanski seems more focused on avoiding being proven wrong. And now the Browns are careening into a crisis of their own making. Let's talk about the ripple effect. When your best young player gets benched despite being healthy, it sends a message. Not just to the media, not just to the fans, but to the entire locker room. It says, this isn't about performance. This isn't about merit. This is about politics. And players hate that. They'll never say it in a post-game interview, but you better believe they're talking about it. In the weight room, in film sessions, in group chats. They know who deserves to play. They see who's putting in the work. They also know when a head coach is playing scared. Look at the signs. Sideline frustration from veterans. Defensive leaders looking disengaged. Energy that should be dialed in coming out of a bye week. And instead it feels like the entire team is sleepwalking through decisions. And how could they not be? When you can't trust the process, you lose the will to buy in. That's how teams fracture. And this is the Browns we're talking about. A team that for decades has been haunted by its inability to develop quarterbacks. They draft them, hype them up, kill their momentum, and then either ship them out or bury them under excuses. Over and over again. And now it's happening again, only this time it's worse. Because now the whole league is watching it play out in real time. This isn't 2014. There's no benefit of the doubt anymore. The fans are smarter. The players are more vocal. And the patience? It's gone. Completely evaporated. You cannot sell another quarterback of the future and then watch him rot on the sideline because the coach doesn't want to look bad for changing course. We've moved past development strategy. This is about institutional pride. The kind of pride that makes leaders dig in their heels and say, we'll fix it our way. Even when it's clear to everyone watching that their way is broken. That's the cost of ego. And now they've got a guy in Sanders who, if given the reps, could turn this team around. Not because he's a magic fix. Not because he's going to walk in and be Mahomes overnight. But because he brings something they desperately need. Energy. Momentum. The unknown. A chance to build something instead of dragging the fan base through yet another slow spiral into irrelevance. But that won't happen unless someone in that building steps up and makes the hard decision. And the longer they wait, the worse this gets. We're not even talking long-term planning anymore. We're talking salvaging the season. Because right now, the locker room is heading toward fracture. The fan base is boiling. And Stefanski is rapidly losing his grip on the one thing every coach needs to survive, the benefit of the doubt. If the Browns come out of the bye week and still don't give Sanders meaningful reps, then what's left to defend? Are they trying to tank this season quietly? Is it about proving loyalty to a backup QB who's barely functional? Or is it just about sticking to the script and pretending it's all going according to plan? Because the plan is clearly not working. And here's what makes this all so ridiculous. The risk of playing Sanders is so much lower than the risk of continuing like this. The worst-case scenario? He struggles. Big deal. He's a rookie. Struggles are part of the process. At least you're building something. At least there's growth. At least you can say you're trying. Right now, they're not trying. They're stalling. delaying the inevitable, making excuses. And that's what Tom Brady was attacking. Not just the decision itself, but the cowardice behind it. You want to build a winning franchise? You take risks. You admit mistakes. You adapt. You don't bench your future to protect your pride. And you don't lie to your players, your fans, and your locker room about what's really going on. The Browns have the rare chance to do the right thing, to reset, to own the missteps, and put someone under center who at least gives them hope. But that window is closing. Every week they stall. The hole gets deeper. The frustration gets louder. The trust gets harder to earn back. And once that trust is gone, especially with your locker room, you don't get it back. You lose your leaders. You lose your fans. And eventually, you lose your job. This isn't just a bad call. It's a franchise-level failure in motion. But there's still one path forward. Bench the excuses. Start the quarterback who's been waiting, working, and showing he's ready. Let Shedeur Sanders play. Let him make mistakes. Let him learn. Give the locker room a reason to rally. Give the fans a reason to believe. The season isn't over yet. But it will be soon if they don't move now. And if they don't, they deserve every ounce of criticism coming their way. Because this isn't a talent problem. It's a leadership one. And that's the part Brady saw clearly from a mile away. And now we've reached the part where everyone's running out of places to hide. No more blaming game scripts. No more vague medical updates. No more he's progressing well quotes that say absolutely nothing. Because now everyone knows what this is. A blatant case of coaching stubbornness wrapped in PR-friendly excuses. Tom Brady didn't break his silence because he's bored on a Monday. He saw a talented young quarterback getting iced out of an opportunity for no legitimate reason. He saw a coaching staff more focused on protecting their fragile egos than fostering development. And more than anything, he saw a mirror of the exact culture that doesn't win in the NFL. Brady came from a system that rewarded readiness. He thrived in an environment where if you could play, you played. Period. No favorites. No coddling. And definitely no hiding behind back tightness when everyone can see the guy throwing bombs in warm-ups. What Stefanski's doing isn't caution. It's control. You don't need a coaching degree to understand what's happening in Cleveland. Shedeur Sanders is being blocked, strategically blocked, from stepping on the field, not because he's incapable, but because his success would embarrass the very people keeping him benched. If he gets in and plays well, suddenly the spotlight turns from development timeline to why wasn't this done weeks ago? That's what they're scared of. Not failure. Truth. Because if Sanders succeeds, it exposes the coaching staff for holding back a potential star. It reveals that the player with all the tools, arm strength, poise, decision-making, was available this entire time. And they were the ones who chose mediocrity. Let's talk about the damage this is doing. The fanbase is already on edge. Browns fans have suffered through more quarterback chaos than any franchise in the modern era. They've bought into the next guy more times than they can count. They've endured the Johnny Football circus, the Baker Mayfield experiment, the Deshaun Watson fiasco. And now, just when it seems like they might finally have something promising in Sanders, the team won't even try? That's not just frustrating. That's infuriating. And then there's the locker room. Do you really think elite defenders like Myles Garrett are putting their bodies on the line every Sunday just to watch coaching politics keep their offense from competing? You think guys like Denzel Ward don't feel the drain of playing lights out while the team continues to hemorrhage opportunities on the other side of the ball? Leadership by fear, by rigidity, by protecting the status quo. That's how you lose a team. Not overnight, but piece by piece. And those sideline glances? That body language? It's already started. Stefanski might still have control of the mic at pressers, but he's already losing control of the room. The longer he clings to this idea that Sanders isn't ready, the more people tune out. Because they know what they're seeing. And what they're seeing is a quarterback who is ready, just not allowed. This is the exact kind of internal tension that destroys a season. Not because players quit, but because belief dies. Quietly, slowly. Until everyone's just going through the motions. And then come the leaks. The anonymous quotes. The post-game comments that aren't outright mutinous, but carefully phrased to say, "We're tired of this." And all of it could be avoided if they just gave the kid a chance. Because here's the truth, even if Shedeur Sanders struggles, at least the team can say they're building. At least the offense has an identity. At least the players feel like they're moving forward. Right now they're stuck in neutral. And you can't inspire a locker room with excuses and half-truths. Look around the league. Teams that take the leap with their young quarterbacks are either finding gems or figuring it out fast. The Packers with Jordan Love. The Texans with Stroud. The Colts with Anthony Richardson before his injury. They committed. They took the risk. Because that's what leadership looks like. Calculated risk in the name of progress. Cleveland, on the other hand, is clinging to safety like it's a strategy. But here's the catch. The safe choice isn't safe at all when it's leading to losses and crumbling team morale. It's just slow-motion failure. And Tom Brady? He just ripped the Band-Aid off. His comments aren't just about Sanders. They're about a bigger problem. Coaching cultures that reward loyalty to a flawed plan over the courage to pivot. Brady knows that young quarterbacks can't learn on the bench forever. They need live reps. They need to make mistakes. They need to be trusted. That's how growth happens. You think Brady became Brady by being protected from failure? No. He got tossed in during chaos and earned every rep. And he knows that's what Sanders needs too. Not a speech. Not a sit-tight promise. Actual game time. The opportunity to rise or fall and learn from both. But Cleveland's current leadership doesn't seem interested in that. They're more concerned with saving face than saving the season. And here's where things get real. If Sanders doesn't start seeing the field soon, he's going to want out. And who could blame him? He's done everything right. He's prepared. He's worked. He stayed quiet until recently. But the frustration is there, and it's growing. All it takes is one headline, one interview, one trade rumor. And suddenly, the Browns aren't just looking at a lost season. They're looking at losing the one quarterback who could have turned things around. The choice is clear, and it's urgent. Play Shedeur Sanders. Not because it'll save Stefanski's job, because frankly, that window might already be closing. Not because it'll guarantee wins, because no rookie ever does. But because it's the only move that makes sense if this franchise actually wants to grow. Give the kid the keys. Let the locker room see that leadership is willing to adapt. Let the fans know their voice matters. Let Sanders show why he was brought in to begin with. Because the longer they wait, the more this becomes not just a coaching mistake, but an organizational failure. And if nothing changes, here's what's next. More losses. More sideline tension. More leadership fallout. And a fan base that finally gives up on believing this time might be different. But it can still be different. If someone in that front office wakes up, takes the hit, and makes the call. Let me know where you stand on this, because it's all coming to a head. Are the Browns finally about to let Sanders take the reins? Or are we watching another chapter in Cleveland's eternal quarterback curse? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Smash that like button if you're done with the excuses. And subscribe if you're here for every twist in the NFL's never-ending drama. We're watching a power struggle dressed up as strategy. And unless something changes, it ends like all the others. With wasted potential, a fractured team, and another year flushed down the drain.